What about the resurrection thing? One of the big questions in people's minds about the whole concept of Christianity is how the resurrection happened. Or they ask the question, did it happen or could it have happened? It's such a huge question because really the concept of Christianity and belief in Jesus rests on the event that we call the resurrection and how Jesus became alive again. The word resurrection just means that, becoming alive again. Can someone become alive again after being dead? The logical answer to that, of course, is no. And because of this logic, many would say it couldn't happen at all and didn't happen. There's a couple of issues here. First being that the Bible records the event a number of times, and the Bible's credibility as a historical document is basically second to none. So the story says it happened. Other ancient documents refer to it happening. And secondly, even within the text, we see people trying to make up stories to say that it didn't happen. Listen to this from Matthew 28. Tell people, his disciples came by night and stole him away while they were asleep. This is the religious bigwigs talking to a bunch of soldiers. Actually, there have been all manner of theories and excuses made about how it didn't happen. But thirdly, the event is still remembered. It is talked about, evaluated, scrutinised year after year after year, and historians say they have the answer, but then there's these Christians worshipping and celebrating, and we even have a holiday to commemorate it. I think again it comes down to the question of, and the concept of, how big is our God? Listen to what part of the retelling of the story from Acts says. It says in Acts 13:28, and though they found in him no guilt worthy of death, they asked Pilate to have him executed. And what they had carried out, all that was written of him, and they took him down from the tree and they laid him in a tomb, but God raised him up from the dead, and for many days he appeared to those who had come up with him from Galilee to Jerusalem, who are now his witnesses to the people. Notice it says in verse 30, God raised him from the dead. The text of the storyline is saying that God did it. It's not natural in its occurrence, but God facilitated the coming alive again. The question for many people is how? Well, the Bible doesn't actually say how God manipulated the situation to make it happen. For us, the biggest thing to believe is, do we believe it? Do we get it? Can we put our faith in it? Is it possible to have Jesus die on a cross and then 3 days later walk out of the tomb alive? Do we think God could do this? Again, how big is our view of God? If he is all-powerful, yep, he can do that. If so, the possibilities are endless. If he has limited power, then he couldn't do it. And Christianity is just an absolutely waste of space. And actually it says that in the Bible in 1 Corinthians 15. It says, if Christ has not been raised, then our preaching is in vain and our faith is in vain. Yet the concept of Christianity keeps going and growing. Why? It probably happened. If we look at the information we have, there is so much positive testimony and documentation that it's pretty hard to refute. The other thing is, when someone accepts that it happened and lets that belief and faith take its course, there becomes this relationship with God thing. For those of us who have experienced it, we are sure of this coming alive bit. That has gone from information to relationship. Now, if someone hasn't experienced it, then they're not going to get it. And that's true. But for those who do experience it, it changes our world. Here's some questions for you to think about. Does your faith require Jesus to have become alive again? And how do you explain to someone that you think Jesus became alive again? That's a tough one. Bless you.